And this has been, the challenge is actually that causes poultry, that faces poultry. I'll do KEBS certification so as to give us license to continue with selling the drug and so on. We target the project funding. BRSI plans to raise funds amongst the company directors. There is room for engagement.
I'm Dr. Mutai, Agriculture, presenting on para high-pro dual-purpose chicken, The methodology breed that we have business model is that we multiply and commercialize the para high-pro and then partner with local poultry farms and cooperatives, the funding project, with mutual benefit in terms of the stage of development of the MOU. So then let us partner with BRSI and have this wonderful crossbreed bird developed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mutai. And Mr. Sunday, you may have a seat so that we bring the next team. We can give them a round of applause.
I know you don't lack any. The presentation was quite clear. Okay, if there are no questions, we'll be moving to the next presentation. So you may kindly take your seats. Sorry.
If them are clappers.
Okay, for our next presentation, we'll be having Mr. Richard Magondu and Ms. Esther Njagi, who will speak on the medicinal benefits of the Mirabilis halapa, also known as the 4 o'clock plant. Let's welcome you with a round of applause. You can do better.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, friends. Are we together? Now, I'm going to present on a certain plant that's very common around, which you are going to recognize from the appearance, from the diagram. And I won't talk about its medicinal value. That has probably been downlooked or underrated for quite some time. Needless to say, actually, I came to know of it a long time ago, back in the 60s when I was a young boy. In my school, we used to use it. You know, during our time, that time when we were very young, we used to have a lot of woods because we were very playful in the thickets, and therefore we could get woods which would otherwise be septic, and we had a problem controlling the sepsis. So we discovered that it is working. The plant is none other than Mirabilis jalapa, or 4 o'clock plant. This 4 o'clock plant is called so because it's usually known to bloom at around 4 or in the late afternoon, and is a native of South America. But now, as we are talking, it is more or less like all over the world. It has been researched on before, but I feel that we should bring it closer to us because we don't have the ability to obtain the machines that are used. Because if it's used in the villages, the villagers, the young, old people there will not have time to actually refine it and package it as something that can be used immediately when it is needed. During that time we used to use it, we used this as crude preparation. We would just get the seeds and get the kernel, crush it, get the powder, apply it in the septic wood, and within 2-3 days, it will have dried up, and within a week it has healed. That interest drove me into thinking of it. In fact, my presentation, I'm presenting it right now. We are supposed to be with another presenter who is not with us because some unavoidable circumstances, so bear with me. She's Miss Esther Jagi. We have already done the first step, which is actually obtaining the plant, the seeds, and then crushing them and doing the well diffusion method to see its effectiveness or the media that has been occurred by the organisms in question. We are dealing with the bacteria, gram-negative and gram-positive, which usually affect human beings. One of them is Streptococcus, and the other one is Staphylococcus, majorly the ones that infect woods. But so far, up to where you have got, we have seen that it is not working on the crude preparation, so it needs a refinement. So you need to refine it and then try to use the extract. The extract, we use it now to search on it. Meanwhile, as we think of as to how it can be used in the crude form, because it was working that time, and it is not working on the media, Muller Hinton, which we know as the media that is used for sensitivity testing. I want us to find out what could be causing the non-effectiveness, or it is not displaying the so-called zone of inhibition. There is no zone of inhibition that has been obtained, as you can see in the diagrams. So we are going to refine it, and then we get the extract using the recommended extracts or solvents. We will use it in media also. So far, I know it is still being used even today, because there are some people here who also use it today as it is, and they claim that it works. So the reason why it is not working on the media and why it rather would be considered as a possible extract that can be used on woods and is not working on the media, that's what I want to establish. However, let me put it this way. There are some things that have been put down by the previous researchers, and they have found that it works well after it has been refined. Now, the challenge we have, I wonder if they have seen the Mirabilis plant itself. yeah, the 4 o'clock plant. And I wanted to say that the reason why it does not work is because research has been done and it has been found out that crude extracts normally do not work because there are other inhibiting factors in the extract before it is, in the preparation, before it is extracted, where the extract actually now becomes more refined without the other carrier contents, which could inhibit the growth of a bacteria, like amino acids, lipids. There are other things in the crude extract, like carbohydrates and other sorts of proteins. But after refining, they are put aside, and therefore we do with only the active extract that we will have gotten. The only challenge we have here, or I have, is that I need preparation and well preparation for it, because I need extracting solvents to do the work, and also equipments. But it appears that I'm limited because the ones that I use are the ones that are used in the lab here, and sometimes they could be needed to perform some other procedures in the lab, and therefore they are not solely meant for this research. So I would be glad to say that if I get somebody to partner with me and help me, or will help us to get those necessary equipments, we would go a long way. It is necessary because if it deals with the septic wounds, we know septic wounds nowadays are not very common, but the areas where they are very common, especially in the cases of where we have got bed sores in the elderly and the critically ill, when they are lie on the bed for a long time, they develop those kind of complications. So it would be easy when we have done it and come up with a better solution. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that insightful presentation. We'll now take a few questions from the audience or the jury. If you have a question, you can raise your hand.
Thank you very much. I have 2 questions. We are currently facing bacterial resistance. Would you say that you are going to increase this or decrease this? Antibacterial resistance is a medical challenge currently. Number 2, where are your toxicology test results? Thank you.
The first question is on microbiological resistance. I feel that it is supposed or about to work, because the well diffusion that we did, we had a control over positive and we had a negative control, which showed their potency very well. And when it comes to resistance, a bacteria will not resist something that has been exposed to. And if it resists, that means then it is a failure from the word go. But here I feel that probably unless the bacteria that I used were exposed to the same kind of material before, there is no resistance. It is only that it is nature to resist it when it is in that form. If there happen to be any resistance, we still will find it out as we are going on with the research. Because if it doesn't respond at all, that means it doesn't work. It will be something that is resisted by the body or the bacteria, and therefore it will be considered as non-viable. It can't work. Second question was,
Yes, the second one was on toxicology results.
Toxicology results, let me say that I have already prepared that kind of thing in my introduction, which I have not touched here for the sake of time. Time has limited me to going deep into it. But it has shown in previous researches that it is effective. Not only the plant, not only the whole plant, but the seeds themselves, the leaves and the roots, they are effective when they are subjected to various sensitivity testing. And the toxicology part of it, we can always type it because we need to check on it. We can do it and come up with the active ingredients in that particular production.
Okay,
I hope I have answered your question.
thank you. You still have a question? We would like to thank you for the presentation, and the jury would like to invite Dr. Mutai and Sande for their question session.
Thank you.
Sorry, Sande, you are working on poultry pathogens, right? Are you convinced that there are no other solutions to this kind of a problem?
Okay. Yeah, okay. There are other solutions, yes, but you see okay, so usually some diseases are resistant. You know, there are some even okay, for example, a disease like malaria can reach somewhere, then again it resists a drug. So it's better to have more options, maybe so that in the future we can be able to solve such an issue. Yes.
Thank you. I've heard you. So what makes your solution very great as opposed to the others? That is what we need to get. What is the problem? What is it that you are solving, which other drugs cannot solve?
Okay. Okay. Right now, the cost of the drug, even the chicken, then it was found to work. Oral administration of the drug, so it worked. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And this goes to Dr. Paul. In 2 words, what are the gaps you are filling with the new chicken, which is not there available currently out here?
The gaps we are trying to fill with this research is that we have two major areas in terms of now expensive poultry feed, which causes the conventional broiler, it eats a lot, and the conventional feed is very expensive. And now the para-hypro as a hybrid, it eats less of another form of improved kienyeji feed, which is cheaper than the conventional broiler feed. So it will reduce the cost. Two is that this para-hypro has another benefit of disease resistance borrowed from its parental stock, one of its parental stock, which now the conventional broiler doesn't have. So we are trying to reduce again then treatment cost. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to ask in terms of biosecurity, because you had a component on managing biosecurity, which is quite an issue, especially when it comes to breeding chickens. So how would it be different from the conventional chickens in terms of how we get diseases and how we treat the diseases with this chicken?
I think the element there of biosecurity and the budgeting of that portion, we shall budget, or we are budgeted for biosecurity to reduce again disease incidences, which is a general accepted way of reducing diseases by not just waiting for disease to come. We want to prevent rather than treat. So that is the essence of involving and budgeting for biosecurity measures at that.
I think we're okay. Back to you.
On Koba, a lecturer in the Department of Mathematics, Chemistry and Physics. He'll take us through this research titled An Investigation of the Phytochemical Composition and Antifungal Activity of Combined Extracts from Euphorbia harta, Oxalis tifolia, Lygia remota benth. Please join me in welcoming him with a round of applause.
My presentation is about an investigation of phytochemical composition and antifungal activity of a combined extract from 3 plants. One is Euphorbia hither L, Oxalis latifolia, and Anchuga limota pent. Next. I'm going to show you some pictures which you may not like. That picture. Next. Next one. You can't write those pictures. Next. You cannot like them. Next. Thank you so much. What am I trying to put across? That part of the problem I am trying to resolve. Plants contain a wide range of biological active compounds, which we call them phytochemicals, which are derived from various parts such as leaves, flowers, seeds, buds, roots, bulbs, etc. And therefore, this is what we want to tap from. The phytochemicals are trying to prove that they are the source which we can get directly so that we can solve battle of this fungal resistance growing concerned each and every time. And therefore, phytochemicals from these medicinal plants, because of their antimicrobial activity, which have been proven, which plays a crucial role against some of the diseases. Therefore, we have also realized that these diseases are becoming resistant. And therefore, we need to also catch up with them and try to solve some of these issues. Phytochemicals have multiple biological effects, including antioxidant, free radical, anti-inflammatory, anti-carcinogenic, and others. Currently, so many studies have shown that we can isolate them and put them into antimicrobial practices so that we can solve this, some of these problems. The growing prevalence of microbial infections coupled with the emergence of drug resistance strains of pathogens poses a significant global health challenge. Currently, antimicrobial agents are increasingly losing efficacy, and the development of new drugs have not kept pace with the rate at which resistance is developing. And fungal resistance is a growing concern, especially the intensive care settings. For example, Candida species can develop a resistance to drugs like fluoroquinolone, ethnogadins, through various mechanisms, including mutations, increased drug effects, also biofilm, and others. For us to speed up in research and invent some of these drugs which can counter the resistance of these statement of development. I want to summarize by saying that this is critical need to scientifically validate the antimicrobial efficacy of bioactive compounds and assess their potential alternatives. Objectives are so many, which I don't want to go through them. Is also one way on how these things are going to be done. My results, which I have, and other GSMS and MNL results have shown that extracts from these three plants combined can solve significantly this problem that we have. I may not go through each and every one, but only from all the compounds that were separated, only one compound that it did not have antifungal activity. While the rest in conclusion, this study suggested that the three plants combined extract can effectively resolve the fungal activity. Then finally, it is therefore important to maximize this potential combination of the three plants and focus on identifying and coming up with a well-elaborated medicine that can solve the fungal problems. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Onkoba. I now invite the jury for questions.
Yes, please. We shall do that at the end, after the last presenter.
So that we manage time.
Okay, so going on to the last presenter. Our final presentation is from the team comprising Mr. Timothy Odhiambo, Mr. Enoch Ochanda, and Ms. Esther Njagi and Professor Catherine Namimo. They will address integrating GIS into teaching and learning in tertiary institutions, opportunities and challenges. Kindly let's welcome them. Our final presenters, Mr. Timothy Odhiambo, Mr. Enoch Ochanda, Ms. Esther Njagi, and Professor Catherine Namimo. Kindly take the stage. Their presentation will be addressing integrating GIS into teaching and learning in tertiary institutions, opportunities and challenges. Kindly take note that your time is running. After their presentation, that's when we'll have the comments and questions for Mr. Onkoba and the current team. Thereafter, we'll be moving to the panel discussion. The panel discussion will be involving Dr. Jordan Kiongo and Dr. Rael Adhiambo. We already met them at the church. In addition to the jury is Mr. Mchieka, who will be doing so while online, and we hope we'll be having him in a short while. He'll be joining the jury online. So the presenters may take the stage.
It's on. Good afternoon. Our innovation is entitled Integration of GIS in Teaching, particularly in higher education. And this innovation is founded in previous research that observed disparities between the kind of skills that the graduates carry job market versus what is required at the job market. So the problem that we address, one is that in the job market, graduates, especially in environmental science and related fields, often graduate with weak practical skills, making them less competitive in the job market. And that is spanning from research way back from 2012 to the present. And researchers also revealed limited access to technology. Particularly, most universities lack affordable GIS infrastructure and reliable data sets, creating a digital divide in higher education. Besides that, there is inadequate expertise, particularly as observed of the faculty who simply lack skills of GIS. And that is coupled with systematic barriers, including insufficient funding and lack of policies on the same.
The solution to these problems, according to our model, we intend to enhance the integration of GIS in teaching and learning. We intend to bridge theory and practice to simulated experience, improve employability by enhancing spatial and problem skills, to create affordable skills. The global of the GIS industry, which is a projected at $25 billion by 2030. Universities and tertiary institutions from a growing sub-market with millions of students in educational science, geography, urban and STEM programs could benefit from GIS-enabled learning. In Africa alone, there is over 1,000 presenting a potential reach in hundreds of thousands of learners annually. Growth potential. The GIS industry is expected to grow at between 10 to 12% globally due to the rising demand by spatial data in climate change, infrastructure, agriculture, and urban planning. The e-learning market is also expanding rapidly, expected to reach 400 billion with growing student populations but limited access to GIS resources. Early adopters, faculties of environmental science, geography, agriculture, and urban planning, where GIS skills are most urgently needed. Future segments, broader STEM programs, technical training institutions, and eventually secondary schools integrating GIS on digital curricula. The business model, cost structure, product development, software platform design, integration of GIS and continuous updates, data and infrastructure. We shall do licensing and sourcing GIS datasets, cloud hosting, and system maintenance. Market and outreach, targeted campaigns for universities, academic partnerships, with regard to staffing and training, technical support, software development, GIS specialists and trainers for faculty capacity building. Now, on the pricing strategy, we talk of tiered subscription model, affordable annual semester-based subscriptions tailored to institutional budgets. We shall also have freemium, where we have basic features suggested for free to excite the need for adoption. Competitive advantage, we'll have lower costs than traditional GIS licensing like ArcGIS by offering borderly modular education-focused pricing. Revenue, institutional subscription will draw our revenue. Faculty training packages will also draw revenue from there. Student access licensing, and also data and add-ons marketplace for the future. Selling access to specialized data sets, plugins, and advanced features. Go-to-market customer acquisition.
to us. We want to have our results, where the jury are going to announce shortly to us for the afternoon session. And then we are going to have the other session being officiated by Dr. Gitonga. Dr. Gitonga, where you are, get ready because the next session is coming soon. Okay?
Do I do from the last or? So I will try and be a bit louder. Can you hear me? So the results are in, and I've confirmed from all the tallying centers. Hopefully no one will come for my neck today. And so at number 5, we have Mr. Richard Magudu. And then at number 4, we have Mr. Eric Onkoba. And so number 3, we have the group of Timothy, Enoch Ochanda, and Professor. On integrating GIS to teaching and learning. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to give a round of applause for the final 2 best presentations that we had today. So a round of applause for the 2, as I mentioned them. And with 67%, number 2 is on Dr. Paul Mutai on poultry. A hand of applause for Dr. Paul. And number 1 is Mr. Abraham Sunday. A round of applause. Congratulations to everybody. I still maintain that all the presentations were quite nice, and we look forward to working on them to panel beat them so that we can translate them to better innovations. Thank you very much, and thank you to the team.
So thank you very much. We shall ask you to give a round of applause to the afternoon session presenters. Once again, shall we? Thank you very much, the teams. We now call upon Dr. Gitonga, who will lead us in the next session. So I think I will retire from this point now. Dr. Gitonga.
So, good afternoon. We request all the people sitting at the back, please, to come here. This program needs interactive session. It's an interactive session, so please stand up and come and occupy the front seats. Kindly. Thank you. Kujani hapa mbele. Okay? And also for those people who are doing their presentations, some of your team members can come here so you can ask questions. This is a time when you have the experts. This group here, please come all of you. Okay? We are waiting for all of you to come. Let's occupy these seats here.
Okay, let's hurry up. We didn't say you go out, we say you come in front. Yeah. Okay. So welcome for this session, the afternoon session. This session is also live on our social media, on Baraton, on Hope Channel also. We would like to thank Hope Channel Baraton for making it possible. We shall be joined later on. We shall be joined later on by some other very distinguished guests for this program. But now let's go get back to what we have in front of us here. Today we are lucky to have this team with us. In fact, let me say this. When we were discussing with someone over lunch, she told me that you guys are lucky to have the entire research fabric of Kenya with you in one day. You know? Can you clap for us for that? Yeah, we have the entire research fabric. We have representatives from Nakosti here. You know, everyone who has to do research in this university, you remember you have to go through Nakosti. And so we have Nakosti here. We have someone from the innovation arm of the Commonwealth Office. Okay? We had, okay, he's not here, but we had Dr. Omwanza, you know, with us here today. So this is a big day for all of us. And today this time is a panel discussion where you can ask or you can hear from them about some few issues that we need to know. These people need no much introduction. We are lucky to have you here. We start with the moment. I will do a bit differently than we did in the morning. In the morning they were introduced. I would like them to say how they would like them to be introduced. So I will start with Dr. Ambo. And by the way, you know, Dr. Ambo is like, she's not of my age, you know. She's a baby. You know, when I asked her when she was born, she is a baby. She was born when I was in college. Can you believe that? And she has achieved so much. So, Dr. Adhiambo, kindly introduce yourself.
Hi, I was told that I had the pleasure of saying how I will be introduced. And my name is Amazing Adhiambo. I work as a scientist at Nakosti. And pretty much all my life I've been passionate about very few things. And one of them is science, women in science, and oceanography. So at Nakosti, I work in the policy advisory sector where we develop policies advisories. And I'm basically a link between the research world because we evaluate all your wonderful researches that you do and the policy world that creates impacts from your research. And so please don't think that your research just lies in the shelves. No, we actually read all your researches and we translate them into policy advisories. So asanteni sana.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adhiambo. I almost got late coming for this session because I thought, let me do take a few minutes to Google the profile of Dr. Jordan. And I almost got late. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this person here, someone said, by the way, they are very young. How did they achieve so much? Dr. Jordan, I went after 10 pages, I just decided to stop there so that I could come and anchor this show. Dr. Jordan, in a summary, how do we introduce you? Who are you?
I hope you can hear me. So my name is Jordan Kiongo, as you've heard. How do I introduce me? I'm just a guy who's passionate about research, passionate about innovation, and passionate about making a difference with what is given to me. And what has been given to me over the years, as you've said, is a lot of exposure to both education and practice in research and innovation. My background has been a bit convoluted. So I started off as a basic scientist. I worked at ILRI doing livestock research. Then I did HIV research in the lab for quite a number of years, looking at prevention and a bunch of other things. Then I decided when I was in the lab, I was quite fascinated because in the lab you're only dealing with things in the lab. You don't see people. But I was quite fascinated about the people behind these samples, so I went into public health. And I did a master's in public health, and ended up doing a bit of public health for quite a while. I collaborated with the Kenyan government on a lot of policy things. And then after a while, I decided to broaden my scope, so I went into international development, which is where I am right now, working for the UK government. I head the East Africa Research and Innovation Hub. We do evidence generation, so the kind of things that NACOSTI approves, but we also look at research and innovation system strengthening in Eastern Africa, in West Africa, and in South Africa as well, and collaborate with people in the UK and in South and Southeast Asia as well. Yeah.
Wow. Is that within the years? I mean, how many years did that take? I think that's a lot.
I'm evidently not as young as Daktari here, as the hair can tell. But it's taken time. It takes time to build these things.
Wow.
I think I would say I went for my first master's in 2005.
Okay.
So that's about 20 years ago.
Okay.
And every other thing followed within those 20 years. So quite a lot has happened over that period.
Amazing, amazing. Now, let's go to NACOSTI. The topic today is enabling innovation sandboxes. Enabling innovation sandboxes. And that is, we'll be looking at rethinking policy to transform universities into engines of enterprises. You know, NACOSTI normally deals with things like publications quite often, because once we, the motto for NACOSTI, what we know is publish or perish. You see, publish or perish. But I will ask you something about that. Now, how can we move from publish or perish to innovate and prosper while still valuing the academic rigor? Your job is to maintain the academic rigor. How do we move from publish or perish to innovate and prosper? How can you help us with that?
Thank you very much. I think I want to go back again to NACOSTI's mandate. Yes. I know a number of you know us for research permits, but we actually have 15 other roles and mandates that we do, and this can be summarized basically into 4. So the regulation, which is the permits, accrediting institutions, the ethical reviews, the policy advisories, where I'm basically majored in, and then we have the coordination role. So we coordinate STI stakeholders, and we have the promotion role. And so throughout this framework, we created an not so new initiative called the STI mainstreaming. And so we collect information on all these things. And this was spearheaded by the fact that a lot of research and academic institutions and MDAs seem to prefer teaching and publishing as opposed to venturing into innovations and commercialization. And just looking at what Dr. Omansa had talked about today, the future of all universities in Kenya is entrepreneurship. And that is what leading universities across the world are doing. And so through the STI mainstreaming, we collect quite a number of data on what the universities are doing. How many jobs have they created? How many researchers do they have? How many of those researchers are men? How many are female? What is the age bracket? How many patents have they produced in a year? How many products have been commercialized? And one of the things that's coming out clearly is you will be surprised that the smaller universities are doing quite a number of things outside the role mandate, the main role of teaching and just maybe research. And so that's what we are doing. But beyond just STI mainstreaming, I think being a regulator, we can take a center stage into creating policies that advance the role of institutions, not just as mere repositories of knowledge, but also a place where innovation and ideas come alive.
That's great. Now, Dr. Kyongo, there's this issue of design thinking. See, that's a trending thing in innovation world these days, design thinking. And we are trying to look at how we can leverage global partnerships, where you are right now, to scale African universities' innovations. You know, when we look at you, the first thing which comes to our mind is, I think I'll ask this guy for money. You know? So we are more into looking at you as someone who can provide funding for our innovations. But I don't think that's what we should always be targeting. Now, this is the question. How can African universities co-design partnerships with international funders to avoid dependency and ensure that there's that reciprocal value creation? Like, you see, most of the African universities would like to look at you as funders. But how can we change that narrative, Dr. Kiongo?
Yeah, so I think actually, in a way, you've answered the question with the statement that you said just before that, because I was actually going to twist the question a little bit to say exactly what you said. So rather than looking at partnerships as a source of funding, is you need to look at partnerships like a relationship. When Dr. Omwansa said in the morning that the first time he came to Baraton, he came to look for a wife. I'm sure he had an end in mind, which can be in the context of partnerships funding, but he starts before. The things that you do before has to be something that is mutually beneficial. When he came, if he spotted a girl here, one of the things he would make his proposal to the girl, but the girl would also need to think, what's in it for me? Why should I marry this man? In the same way, you need to think about your partnerships from the very beginning, thinking about what is mutually interesting. And so if you're looking at international partnerships, the problems that and challenges that we are looking to be addressed then need to be global challenges with local relevance, but also global relevance. So when you go to the UK and you ask, or you go to the Germans or to the French and ask for a partnership, you start the co-creation from when you identify the problem. It needs to be something that the both of you find useful. So when you do that, then you together are able to understand what is the problem that we are trying to solve, how do we solve it, how is it beneficial to you or me, and what do I get out of it and what do you get out of it. If we find a point of confluence, so what happens is that normally a lot of these foreign governments have their own priorities and they have set them out in their policy documents. So for example, for the UK at this specific point, the relevant things that would be important for us would be global health. It's a priority for the UK government. Climate and health, migration, those are things that are important for us. Global education, health, as I think I already mentioned health, which are also important for us. So if you come to the UK government and say, I have a problem in global health, so for example, COVID, it's something that's important to them, as an example. So there's an area of commonality. Once you both identify that, then you co-create the solution yourselves. So the partnerships needs to be done together. And if you, yeah, go ahead.
So what I'm getting is co-creation.
Yes.
Can you expand on that area of co-creation? How can we actually be co-creators?
So you need to find a space where that will be able to happen. So a space like this, for example, allows for co-creation. So what co-creation essentially means is that you and the partner that you're seeking need to find a space to sit down. It can be a virtual space, it can be a physical place, where you both look at what your challenge is and what the solutions are. And the solution comes from both yourself and the partner. So it cannot be that you, as a funder, have all the solutions and me, I've come to you for funding, I have nothing to offer. What am I bringing to the table? The young people here, that's what they normally say. What are you bringing to the table? So both of you are bringing something to the table. I respect what you're bringing and you respect what I'm bringing. That's what co-creation is about.
Amazing, amazing answer. I was not really satisfied with your answer. The sandboxes. You see, a sandbox in this, we look at a place where we can create safe spaces to innovate without minding so much about the regulations. You guys are regulators. We are scared of you. But how can we ensure that we have that safe space where I can even start a science project in a safe environment without thinking I might be arrested or I might, Nakosti, what is your role in seeing we do something like that? It has been done in countries like Finland, India, Indonesia. What about Nakosti?
First of all, I didn't come with any police. So don't worry. No one is going to arrest you. And yes, you're right. NACOSTI is a regulator. And as a regulator, our role is obviously quite different from Dr. Tony's role, which is to enhance these innovations and, bring them up. So I think as NACOSTI, we can play a very huge role in shaping safe and guided policies to create sandboxes. And so what do I mean by these safe policies? Even admitting the fact that currently we do not have the policy environment to create these sort of sandboxes. And at the same time, even as we are doing this, we shouldn't minimize on quality. The basic structure of research needs to remain intact, and this needs to operate within that structure. And so there needs to be quite a huge balance and flexibility in terms of how we are creating this. And so when I think about it then, it means that we need to create a tiered approach where we as NACOSTI are the custodians of all these ethical reviews and institutional clearances. And so we know the procedures that are. But we also know that not all innovation is a risk innovation. And so we can have a tiered approach where the low-risk innovations are quickly through the bureaucratic system so that we reduce those barriers where researchers feel like they have to go through a lot of processes. So for this to happen, it needs a very solid policy environment, and it needs collaboration among all the stakeholders. I mean, KIPI needs to come on board, Kenya needs to come on board, NRF needs to come on board, and Dr. Kiongo, the UK and other funders, of course, need to come on board because we are changing a system, and systems are difficult to change. And so it begins with simple conversations like what we are having here at Kabarak. Hopefully you'll be the first institutions to spearhead this, and then we can see what to do. But I do agree with you that as NACOSTI, we have a bigger role to play in terms of changing the policy system to accommodate the creation of sandboxes.
That's great. Now, to the audience, remember you have a chance to ask a question on any of the topics that we're discussing here. So if you would like to ask a question, you can lift your hand, we can hear you out. Yes, we have one person there. So we are going to give this gentleman a chance to ask a question. One of the panelists will answer that question, and then we can move forward.
Hello.
Kindly introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Ian, and I have a question in respect to...
Mr. Camera. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. How are you? Okay, I'm going to have to shout because of the rain. Huh? And so my question is in respect to innovation. And the question is, how should we, or how far should, the actors, the state actors, the international actors, how far should they go in limiting innovation? I don't know whether you understand. Huh? Like, allow me to face them, please. Huh? Like, you've talked about national goals, international goals, global goals. And so sometimes as an innovator, when I approach venture capitalists, when I approach people who can fund me, they will tend to favor innovations that are in line with their goals, whether global, national, international. Don't you think this limits the innovator's creativity? Yes.
Thank you so much. Now, as you answer that question, Dr. Kiongo, I would also like to add this thing. We are living in an era or an age where global players like you often extract local talents and IP. And now, how do you ensure that African innovators remain producers of wealth and not just exporters of ideas. Many times, in the morning we had that where he said, we have an idea, before we know it, someone in Europe has already have that idea. How can we ensure that we are producers of wealth and not just exporters of ideas?
Yeah, thanks. So I'll start, and Rael, please feel free to come in and answer. So I think you asked an extremely valid question. My thinking is that there's a space for all the different types of priorities and knowledges that we can be addressed by funding. If I go back into partnerships as an example, to what you've said, one of the things that I was going to mention in terms of partnerships is that once, for example, the university or the country gets into partnership with an international organization, is that you need to make sure that the local priorities are in part of that partnership. If you don't, you end up with an extractive mindset, exactly like you're saying. So if an international organization comes and says, our priority is on AI, not that AI, it's global right now, so maybe that's, let's say, critical minerals. Critical minerals may not be important to you as Baraton University at this specific time, but maybe for the purpose of this conversation, let me say the UK, it's an important thing, and I come and say my funding is for critical minerals. It forces you to have to think about critical minerals, but that is not what your creativity was towards. So one of the ways to make sure that we avoid that is that we need to be able to have extremely clear local priorities. So if, as a funder, we come into Kenya and we want to put in some money into collaborative research, what are the research priorities for Kenya? Does any of you know what the top 10 research priorities for this country are? If you know, just lift your hand. I won't ask you to say what they are, but the top 10 research priorities for the country. So one person, no one else. So that, and of course, this is the person who sets the priority, so she knows. But Daktari, I hope this already shows you that that's a problem. Is that not just from the funder perspective, but the population does not know. So which means that you, as the innovator, cannot innovate creatively in the direction of priorities that are important for the locals because you do not know what they are. So it's not, it could be two things. It could be that we don't have those priorities, or it could be that they're there, but you're not aware of them. Whose role is it to make sure that you're aware of them? The Kenyan government. So there's a lot that can be done as part of the system to be able to allow you to be able to be creative in things that are important for you. And that also goes back to the question you're asking about design thinking, is that when you're doing design thinking, whether as a funder or as an innovator, you need to address a problem that's important for the community. We were just having conversations with the colleagues from the public health system there, and they were talking about vaccine uptake and stuff. And I asked them a lot of hard questions because I was asking them, if you're developing something that is supposed to improve vaccination in Mandera, why aren't people coming for innovation, for vaccination? Is it because of distance? Is it because they forget? Those are the two reasons they gave me. And I asked them, what percentage of them don't come because of distance, and what percentage don't come because of forgetfulness? If you don't have that data, you can develop a solution that addresses one of them, but maybe there's another reason. So you have to go and talk to the people to be able to find out what the problem is. So I hope that answers your question. And then to the question you asked about IP. So I think the reason why people come and do research and just helicopter research and disappear, as they call it, is because there needs to be a strengthening on intellectual property at two levels. At national level, and that's the work that Dr. Amwansa and the team at NACOSTI and NRF have been doing. So, and KIPI, there's a colleague from KIPI who's, I think he's seated right behind there. So these are the people, thank you, sir, are the people who set IP policies at country level. If those are strong, it means that they protect IP and innovations locally. But when you come down from national level, at institutional level, my challenge to you as well is, for the university here, do you have policies on IP? So if this gentleman comes up with a solution for something, what did you say your area of interest is in?
Mike, yes. As for now, my area of interest is majorly podcasting and media.
Okay, so broadcasting and media. And let's use actually this as an example. So we are sitting in a hall, it's noisy because of the rain. So if you come with an innovative solution for reducing the feedback and the noise here, and it is working very well, and he installs it in this hall, who will own it? Is it the one who will own it, or is it the university who will own it? Do we know? Do we have an IP policy for this institution? If we don't have, then it stifles this innovation and causes it difficult. So apart from national levels, we also need institutional level policies and frameworks to be able to support IP. Once those are in place, then we can start implementing and thinking about how do we avoid helicopter research and innovation being taken away to different countries.
Wow, wonderful. Dr. Adhiambo, what do you have to add to that?
I mean, I agree with everything you've said and what Dr. Kiongo has said. One of the functions that NACOSTI plays is to develop research priorities for the country. And it was quite sad for me to know that many people here don't actually know that we do have research priorities for the countries. Of course, right now they are coming to an end, and we are developing a new set of priorities. And hopefully, with the information I've gotten here, we'll be able to do a more robust stakeholder engagement so that we can ensure that everybody, at least within the research landscape, understands what our priorities are. Nevertheless, setting priorities is one thing, funding priorities is another thing. Strengthening the research and innovation landscape in Kenya is not a one-person job. It's not an NACOSTI job. It's not a State Department job. And it's not even a Government of Kenya job, by the way. It is a relationship, as we've been talking about, a relationship between us Kenyans and our partners abroad, us within. And so I just want to go back and say that we recently did a study to determine how much money is used in research, not funded, used. And you'll be surprised to know that more than 3% of the GDP is used in Kenya in terms of research. And majority of this comes from external funders, but that's a huge budget. If we can be able to concentrate this budget and feed them to our own priorities, we can do quite a substantive amount of things. So the money is there. It is there, but it is just being translated to other things. And therefore, you will hear a lot of times people saying the government is not offering the 2% that they had committed. But in reality, there is a surplus from the 2% that is already in circulation in terms of research. And so getting back to what you said, it's really important. As regulators then, it's time for us to go back and rethink our approach and rethink on how we can enhance our own priorities. However, as a country, we still depend a lot on donor-funded research funding. And so what that means is we will not be able to solve our own priorities. And this is a conversation that we need now to start talking with NRF, with other partners. And one of the things that I know NACOSTI has been spearheading is on equitable partnerships, surprisingly funded by the UK government again, through the British Academy. And so what we are saying is research can be equal. It doesn't matter who's funding it. It can be equal. It can benefit both sides, but it needs more conversations and more partnerships. And we are also relooking at our partnerships. Initially, we will go to US and Britain, and now we can see that the geopolitics of funding is also changing. And so now we have to build our own capacities. And I'm so happy that if NRF was here, this is the conversation they would be saying, that they've moved a step beyond, that they are now looking at South-to-South collaboration to fill the gap that is already being felt by our researchers. And so I agree that it is a big problem, but it's not a problem that is not being worked upon. And I really, really hope that when we call Baraton University to our meetings on the research priorities, you will be able to send a representative so that you can tell us your priorities. We've been talking about sports. We want to put sports as a research priority in Kenya. Thank you very much.
I think you need to clap for her. Yeah, that's a very good call. We are going to finish our conversation, but I'd like to ask something. What's wrong with us? Okay, and this is for all of you. What's wrong with, I'm an economist, and so when you mention about 3% being dedicated to research of the GDP, it's not 3% of your budget as Nakosti. GDP, that's a lot of money. Can you see all these innovations here? Probably none of this will see the light of day. Every university you go, you see the same setup, none of them see the light of day. But we see these videos from China, small kids in elementary school making things, and voila, they have made a plane. What's wrong with us? Why can't we commercialize our innovations? What's wrong with us? That's the question. We'll start with you.
That's a good question. When someone asks you, what's wrong with you? I don't know what you normally answer, but what's wrong with us? I think I'll start from the positive side and say there's a lot of things that are right with us. The fact that we have Kenya and Africa by extension has a lot of innovations. In fact, I think the problem with us is not that we don't have innovation. We have innovation, and a lot of it is built on necessity. Because of the kind of environment we live in, we have a lot of challenges, but we've learned how to innovate and survive the challenges that we face. So I sincerely do not believe that the capacity to innovate or innovations is the problem. So that's not what's wrong with us. We are very brilliant people on this continent, in this country, in this university, in our country. So there's a lot of innovations. What we lack are systems to support those innovations to scale or to be used in terms of where they need to be used, in whichever area or field that you're coming in. So before we go very far, is all these innovations that have been shown last year during your first Innovation Week and this year's Innovation Week, my question would be, what systems do we have in place to support the commercialization of real research? Number one. So until we have systems and policies and frameworks in place, if we come back here next year and we have the same conversation, then there's something wrong with us. So my hope is that from this year, that we will see some incremental growth in terms of systems, structures, frameworks, funding for the same. So number one. Number two is I think sometimes we innovate based on what we think, but not based on need. So in the morning we were talking about, I asked when we were together with the VC, is what's our connection to the community? Do we know what, even before you go to the community, what are the biggest challenges that students in this university face? Do we know them? Do we know them, all of them? If I ask, this gentleman is nodding furiously, so maybe he knows all of them. But if I ask in the university, what are the top 10 challenges that students face? What are the top 10 challenges that the faculty face? If we understand those things, then we are able to think, then what solutions do we have in-house to those problems? If we do that, then we are producing innovations that are not pie in the sky, but we are producing innovations that will address real-world problems. The problem is sometimes we innovate on things that people don't need. If I am hungry and you bring me a nice Mercedes-Benz, it's fine, I would like a Mercedes-Benz, but I need ugali and sukuma. So how do we relate to what people are really suffering from? If we can address people's needs, then we will be able to solve their problems. So those are the three things. Yes. One, we have the talent, we have the brains, we have the capacity to innovate. Two, we need the framework, systems, and structures to support this innovation. Three, we need our innovations to be able to support real-world problems.
Amazing. You know, Papa Rio is talking. Call him. You know, I was looking to see whether you are listening. You are not listening. I'll make sure I cut that video and said he is our research and innovations officer. He was not listening. I will make sure I cut this video and give it to you. Those 3 steps. What is wrong with us?
I think everything is right with us. There is absolutely nothing wrong with us. But I think that we might also be saying that we have a problem, but the system is rigged. When we look at how globally we solve problems, is that people have a tendency to come to countries like Kenya to incubate ideas, pour in a lot of money for short-term gain. And unfortunately, if you look around in our innovation landscape, majority of our innovators have fallen prey to this kind of activities. And that leads you in a perpetual sort of like cyclone where you can't get out because you're solving problems that are not yours to solve. And I think just adding on what Dr. Ri has said, that we need then to solve, to look at it in terms of our problems, what we want to solve, right? And that means reshaping the systems in which our innovators operate on. And I'm talking about this because we have the capabilities as NACOSTI, as NRF, as Kenya, we have the capabilities to change the system so that we promote as much as of what will be uptaken into our own country, so that we are not just a dumping ground of ideas where people come and exploit our minds and then the ideas do not go to fruition. So yes, we do have a broken system, but the thing about broken things is they can be fixed. They are not rendered useless. So we can start by fixing the broken pipeline and then creating the necessary structures. And again, I have to repeat, it's a whole lot of process. It's not a one person's job. It's not a one-day job. It requires a system change, a mind shift, so that we can be able to enhance our own innovations.
Now, one last question from the audience. Anyone who has a burning questions you would like to ask? Anyone? Innovators? Someone want to ask something? Okay. Now, let me make a okay, come. Yeah. Yes, can you give Madam a microphone? And if you could come here and face the people, it will be better. We need to see you.
Thank you to our panelists. I have 2 questions. One is about when you are dealing with a funder and you are presented what you like to be funded, but you find that they are out of the priorities of the funder. How do you convince the funder to buy your priority? Okay, that goes to Dr. Kiongo. And the second question is to NACOSTI. I know you relate closely with NRF. They do adverts on their priorities. Then you apply, but you don't succeed. So what do you do when you don't succeed and you've been applying for several years? Anytime they put the adverts, what can be done to motivate researchers who come up with ideas and make the applications, but they never succeed? Thank you.
Yeah, those are good questions. She's asking from Kenya in another way that give me a tip. If I come to your office, I'm not able to convince you, what do I do? Chini ya maji, Dr. Kiongo.
That's a good question, and there are 2 sides to that. I'll start with the first one. Is remember I talked about funder priorities. So a lot of times, the funding that funders have, regardless whether they are philanthropic funders or they are government funders, whatever kind of funders they have, they are normally designed with a specific need. So you need to, if you come to me and I have funding, for example, for public health, and he comes to me and he tells me he wants me to fund his broadcasting proposal, he can talk for 2 hours, but that money was designed for public health. So I can't give him the money, but I can give it to you because you're doing public health. So first thing to do is understand the funders' priorities and the nature of the funding that they have available. Once you do that, then you go to them with something that speaks to their priorities. That is just the truth of the matter. And that means that you understand how much money is needed, what procedures do you need to have in place, what do you need to have in place for them to give you the money. So that's one side of it. It's going to be very difficult to convince someone who funds one thing to fund a different thing. So remember that. It's like, for example, my father normally says, people don't fail exams because they are stupid, but they fail exams because you ask them something they don't know. So, in the same way, you can't go to an exam room and someone asks you a question and you set your own exam question and you answer it. You won't pass because professor here will be like, I didn't ask you that question, you answered a different question. So that is one side of it. The second side of it is if your idea is just really good and has the potential for impact. So if you come to me, I may not have the funding that speaks to your idea at that particular time, but I will remember. There is someone who had such a brilliant idea that I will go and look for money to support that idea because I really think that it can have an impact. Whether it is from my own organization or as I'm talking to my other funding partners, I say, I met someone in Baraton who has a brilliant idea. So you need to package it in such a way that it is so attractive that even if it is not, there's no funding available at that specific time, that it will remain at the back of someone's mind. Then one day they'll be like, I have found the funding for this, I will send them directly. And there are funders who actually just like that, like the Gates Foundation, for example. If you have a really good idea and they think that you can do it, they will give you the money. And they will tell you, go ahead and do what you want to do. So just think about it in those two aspects. I hope that answers your question.
Now, back to Nakosti. Now, you answer her question. But this is your last question also from here. It's like this. Now, if Nakosti had to define one new metric for success in universities' innovations, away from publications, what will that metric be, and why do you think that is the one metric for success, away from the just publications?
Okay, so I'm going to answer your question, but I need to answer her question as well.
Yes.
I cannot speak on behalf of NRF because I was called by, I'm representing my institution. However, what I know is that NRF runs a number of training opportunities on, what is this? Grantmanship. And so I would really encourage you to follow their socials because they have quite a number of information there. And also, you can request for feedback. You can actually go and say, why have I not been getting these grants? And an officer there will be more than willing to do it. So hopefully next time you can bring an NRF representative to tackle some of those issues because funding is a big issue. So follow them on socials, attend their trainings, and also ask for feedback. And all the best in your future grant writing. And back to you, if there's a matrix that we can have, will be on the number of patents and commodities that have been commercialized. And we do actually have them in our STI mainstreaming. And I know in the morning we talked about it and we said that it's not, we need to extend it to private institutions and private research institutions especially. And this is because by the time something becomes a patent, it has already passed through research, publications, conferences, all those things. Potentially, if it goes to commercialization, it has created a number of maybe employment opportunities and finances. And so I think for me, that will be the one thing I would look out for.
Wow, that's great. And Dr. Kiongo, I love the way you answer every of your questions with number 1, number 2, and number 3. Now I have a question with number 1, number 2, and number 3. And this is the question, that if you could design the perfect global innovation partnership blueprint, if you could design a perfect global innovation partnership blueprint for an East African startup, an East African university startup. Like if we have a startup here. Now, what 3 non-negotiable elements would you include in that blueprint? 3. Now, we don't need number 4, just 3.
Check. Okay. Good question. It's interesting when your strategy is used against you. So now I have to give 3 non-negotiable.
Not 2.
Not 2. So the blueprint, I think I would base it on what I've seen work very well in the UK in some of the universities like Oxford and Imperial College London. I think the biggest component is collaboration. So I would invent a space where it allows you. Remember what Dr. Omwansa said in the morning, that the best ideas come from people who think differently. So I would invent a space. So let's say this is a space, and this is the innovation hub. So that allows people to collaborate, that you'll bring in the industry people, that you bring in the academics, the faculty like yourselves, you bring the students who are innovators into one space. So collaboration is the one pillar that I would definitely not miss in that blueprint. Number 2 is funding, because these things, of course, need money to be able to start the research all the way to scale up. And then number 3 is I would definitely think about the uptake side of it. So if you think about it, the input is funding, the space is the collaborative space that has everyone who needs to be, and on the other side, number 3, is the people who will use this innovation, whether it is industry, community, academia, government, or whatever. So those people, I would also consider them and invite them into the room.
Now I'm challenged. I'm thinking, I think you read my notes because I didn't expect such a brilliant answer. But ladies and gentlemen, I think we have come to the end of our session now. Because of, I would wish we could continue, but because of time, we have stopped here. I would like to thank our panelists, Dr. Odhiambo. By the way, you have really not encouraged, but what is that word? It's coming and getting lost. Our youngsters to know that they can make it. Some of these are almost your age. They know it's possible, especially our ladies who are innovating. They know it's possible. So thank you for inspiration. The one is inspired. You have inspired the young minds to know that even at that young age, you can achieve so much. Dr. Kiongo, your brilliance in these areas has also given us a spark we can work with. We have been blessed to have you here, and we will remember this day for a very, very long time. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give a hand of applause to our panelists for the wonderful comments that you have given us. Thank you so much, and goodbye. I have been informed that Professor Micheka has been online. It's unfortunate we could not get him through our link, but if Professor Micheka is listening, kindly receive our appreciation. He is a friend of Baraton. He has been here for our research conference, and we would like to thank him for finding time. Is he able to speak? Am I left? Okay. We'll, I know the chairman will pass our appreciation. Thank you.
Okay, there are those who did not present their projects in the morning. This is the time, so kindly if you're around, prepare yourself to present at the moment. If you miss, there's no other opportunity. So if you miss presenting in the morning, kindly avail yourselves at your tables and prepare.